The emergency beacon pulsed weakly against the backdrop of distant stars, its irregular pattern immediately catching Captain Sarah Chen's attention. The deep space research vessel Curiosity had been mapping the outer reaches of the Kuiper Belt when they detected the signal, definitely artificial, but unlike anything in their database. "What do you make of it, Dr. Harrison?" she asked her chief scientist, who was already running analyses on the strange signal. "It's elegant," Harrison replied, his dark fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The signal uses prime numbers as a base, but there's something else, almost like it's carrying emotional harmonics. Definitely not human technology." The bridge crew fell silent. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had dreamed of first contact, but not like this. Not with a distress signal that spoke of desperation in any language. "Life signs?" Chen asked her sensor officer. "Faint readings, Captain. Whatever's out there, they're running out of time." Chen didn't hesitate. First contact protocols were clear, but they hadn't been written with dying aliens in mind. Plot an intercept course. Alert medical to prepare for unknown xenobiology. And someone wake up Ambassador Green. Looks like she'll be earning her pay today. The alien ship emerged from the darkness like a wound in space. Its crystalline architecture might have once been beautiful, but now it was shattered, with great gouges torn from its hull. As they drew closer, Chen could see emergency force fields flickering weakly, struggling to hold in what little atmosphere remained. "Multiple hull breaches," reported Commander Patel, her tactical officer. "Those aren't weapons impacts. Something ate through their hull." "Ate through?" Chen leaned forward in her chair. "Clarify." "The damage pattern suggests some kind of systematic deconstruction at the molecular level. Never seen anything like it." A cold shiver ran down Chen's spine. She'd read enough science fiction to know that systematic deconstruction was rarely good news, but the emergency beacon kept pulsing its desperate message, and she hadn't become a starship captain by running from the unknown. The rescue operation was delicate work. The alien ship's artificial gravity had failed, and its atmosphere was barely breathable even for its own crew. It took 3 hours of careful maneuvering before they managed to secure a stable docking connection. Dr. Maya Santos led the medical team into the alien vessel, her environmental suit equipped with every sensor they could think to include. Chen watched through the doctor's helmet camera as they made their way through crystalline corridors that seemed to sing faintly with each step. They found the survivors in what appeared to be a sealed command center. 12 beings, each unique in appearance, but sharing a crystalline quality to their biology. Only 3 still showed life signs. "Captain," Santos' voice was tight with professional control. "We need to get them to medical immediately. Their cellular structure is shifting. Like their bodies are trying to rebuild themselves but can't quite manage it." Within hours, the Curiosity's medical bay had become humanity's first xenobiology ward. The 3 survivors were stabilized, though Santos admitted she was mostly guessing based on general biological principles and what little information they could salvage from the alien ship's database. The first survivor to regain consciousness was a towering figure with crystalline growths that caught the light like opals. Its movements were deliberate, precise, and despite its obvious injuries, maintained a grace that spoke of advanced evolution. "I am Guardian Celestia of the Crystal Confluence," it spoke, the words somehow forming directly in their minds. "And you have doomed yourselves by saving us." Ambassador Green stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in. "I am Ambassador Sarah Green of Earth. We mean you no harm." "No," Celestia interrupted, its crystal formations dimming. "You don't understand. By making contact with us, you've revealed yourself to them. The deconstructors, they follow the threads of civilizations, breaking down advanced societies into their component parts. We thought we could reason with them, understand them. We were wrong. These deconstructors," Chen spoke up, "they're what damaged your ship. They are what destroyed our civilization," Celestia corrected. "The crystal confluence spanned 1,000 stars. We had achieved perfect harmony, perfect order, and in less than a solar cycle, they reduced it all to base elements. The aliens' next words seemed to drop the temperature in the room. And now they know about Earth. Green and Chen shared a look. Humanity had dreamed of first contact, but not like this. Not with refugees bearing warnings of unstoppable destroyers. But as Chen looked around her medical bay, at her crew already working to help these alien survivors, she felt something else. Humanity had survived ice ages, asteroids, their own near destruction. They'd clawed their way to the stars through sheer stubborn determination. "Tell us everything," Chen said, "about these deconstructors, about how they think, how they fight. Because if they're coming for Earth, they're about to learn that humans don't take kindly to existential threats." Celestia's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. "You would stand against them, even knowing what they did to us." Guardian Celestia. Green smiled, though her eyes were hard. Standing against impossible odds is practically humanity's specialty. The alien was silent for a long moment, its crystal formations pulsing with internal light. Finally, it spoke again. Perhaps that is exactly what we need. The deconstructors seek perfect order, perfect efficiency. They cannot comprehend species that act against their own logical interests. And from what little we observed of your kind before this meeting, humans seem to specialize in defying logic. "You have no idea," Chen said, already thinking about the reports she'd have to write to Earth Command. Humanity's first contact had come with a side of existential threat, but also with an opportunity. An opportunity to prove that sometimes the most logical choice was to defy logic itself. The deconstructors were coming, but they were about to learn that humanity was anything but constructive when threatened. The art of chaos. Dr. Samira Patel hadn't slept in 3 days. The holographic displays surrounding her workstation at the Lunar Defense Laboratory pulsed with data streams from the Crystal Confluence's archives, each one revealing more about the terrifying efficiency of the deconstructors. Behind her, Guardian Celestia watched with crystalline features that somehow managed to convey concern. "Your neural patterns indicate extreme fatigue," the alien observed, "yet you refuse recommended rest periods. This is inefficient." Samira laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "Welcome to humanity, Guardian. We're really good at being inefficient." She gestured at the simulation running before them. "Look at this. The deconstructors' attack patterns are perfect. Each strike optimized for maximum effect with minimum energy expenditure. They're beautiful in a terrifying way." Beauty was not a factor in their calculations when they reduced our worlds to component atoms. Celestia responded, crystal formations dimming. "We believed our perfect order would save us. We were wrong." "Perfect order," Samira muttered, reaching for her 8th cup of coffee. "That's exactly the problem. And maybe exactly our solution." The next morning, Samira stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her presentation ready but her hands shaking from caffeine overdose. Captain Chen and Ambassador Green sat in the audience, along with representatives from every major military and scientific institution on Earth. "The deconstructors operate on perfect efficiency," Samira began without preamble. "Every action serves a purpose. Every strategy maximizes results while minimizing energy expenditure. And that's their weakness." She brought up footage from the Crystal Confluence's last battle. "Watch how they respond to each defensive measure. They analyze, adapt, and counter with perfect precision. But what happens when they encounter something that deliberately wastes energy? Something that makes no tactical sense?" The footage shifted to show a Crystal Confluence ship performing an apparently random maneuver. The deconstructors' response was delayed, almost confused, before they adapted. They struggled to predict illogical actions. Chen spoke up from the audience. "Just like Guardian Celestia said." "Exactly," Samira grinned. "And do you know what species has elevated illogical actions into an art form? Humans. We're the only known civilization that deliberately creates inefficient solutions just because they're more interesting. We make art that serves no practical purpose. We take longer routes because the scenery is prettier. We watch cats on the internet for hours instead of sleeping. Dr. Patel, General Martinez interrupted. Are you suggesting we fight an advanced alien threat with cat videos? I'm suggesting we fight them with chaos. Controlled chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Samira brought up her proposed defense systems. Look at these weapon designs. They deliberately waste energy in random patterns. Shield systems that fluctuate unnecessarily. Ships that execute combat maneuvers based on dance choreography rather than tactical efficiency. The room erupted in arguments. Military officials pointed out the waste of resources, the violation of basic combat doctrine. Scientists argued about the principles of chaos theory and its application to warfare. Ambassador Green's voice cut through the noise. Guardian Celestia, what do you think? The crystalline alien had been silent throughout the presentation, its formation shifting through colors as it processed the information. It is madness, it finally said. Deliberate inefficiency as a weapon. No civilization we encountered in 10,000 years would have conceived of such a strategy. Its crystals brightened. That is precisely why it might work. The deconstructors expect perfect order because that's what advanced civilizations are supposed to strive for. Samira pressed her advantage. But humans, we've turned chaos into an art form. Our greatest military victories often came from doing exactly what no logical strategist would expect. General Martinez leaned forward. How long would it take to implement these chaotic defense systems? That's the beauty of it, Samira replied. We don't need to build everything from scratch. We can modify existing systems to be deliberately inefficient, and we can use the Crystal Confluence's advanced technology as a base. Just make it messier. Messier. Celestia repeated the word as if trying to understand a foreign concept. You would take our perfect technology and deliberately make it imperfect. Exactly. Samira's excitement was infectious. We'll create weapons that sometimes fire at partial power just to be unpredictable. Ships that leak a tiny bit of energy in random patterns to confuse their sensors. Communication systems that include random bursts of human music and literature along with tactical data. Captain Chen stood up. The Curiosity could serve as a test bed. We already have some of the Crystal Confluence's technology integrated into our systems. Let's see what happens when we make it deliberately chaotic. The council chamber buzzed with discussion, but Samira could see the shift in attitudes. Humans had spent centuries trying to achieve perfect efficiency, only to discover that their inherent messiness might be their greatest weapon. There's an old Earth saying, Ambassador Green addressed Celestia. Method to our madness. For the first time, our madness itself might be the method we need. As the council voted to approve Project Chaos, Samira finally allowed herself to feel hope. The deconstructors were coming, expecting to find another perfectly ordered civilization to break down. Instead, they would find humanity, masters of controlled chaos, artists of inefficiency, and proof that sometimes the most powerful weapon against perfect order was a little bit of beautiful madness. Symphony of disorder. The Mars testing facility hummed with an energy that defied description. Lieutenant James Rodriguez stood at the observation deck, watching as engineers from a dozen different species worked on what had to be the strangest fleet humanity had ever built. Below him, the prototype vessel Beautiful Disaster lived up to its name, its hull a patchwork of human and crystal confluence technology that seemed to shimmer in and out of focus. She's ugly as sin, the voice said beside him. Commander Yuki Tanaka, his direct superior and the project's lead test pilot, joined him at the window. But that's kind of the point. James nodded. 3 months had passed since Project Chaos began, and every day brought new innovations in controlled disorder. The Beautiful Disaster was their first full-scale test platform, a ship deliberately designed to be as unpredictable as possible while still remaining functional. Latest simulation results are in, Yuki continued, bringing up a holographic display. The deconstructor algorithms we extracted from Guardian Celestia's data can't maintain a target lock on her for more than 3 seconds. Something about the way she leaks energy in random patterns keeps confusing their targeting systems. Below them, a crystal confluence engineer was arguing with Dr. Patel about power distribution. The aliens' crystalline features flickered with what James had learned was their equivalent of exasperation. But the power fluctuations serve no purpose, the engineer insisted. They waste energy that could be used for weapons or shields. Exactly. Samira's voice carried across the facility. That's what makes them perfect. Look, we've added a subroutine that sometimes routes power through the coffee maker before sending it to the weapons array, just because it makes the energy signature more erratic. James couldn't help but smile. The past months had been a crash course in unlearning everything they knew about efficient spacecraft design. The beautiful disaster systems were a masterpiece of controlled chaos. Weapons that deliberately misfired at random intervals, shields that fluctuated based on prime number sequences, and communication arrays that mixed tactical data with fragments of Earth music and literature. Time for the live fire test, Yuki said, checking her tablet. You ready? James followed her to the ship's entry port, his heart racing. They'd run countless simulations, but this would be their first actual combat test against automated drones programmed with deconstructor attack patterns. The interior of the beautiful disaster was even stranger than its exterior. Crystal confluence technology merged with human interfaces in ways that should have been impossible, creating a cockpit that looked more like an abstract art installation than a military vessel. All stations report, Yuki called out as they strapped in. The responses came back in a deliberate cacophony of different formats, some in standard military procedure, others in haiku, one entirely in quotes from ancient Earth movies. Beautiful disaster to control. Yuki grinned as she initiated launch sequences. We're ready to make a mess. The test itself was unlike anything in military history. The beautiful disaster moved like a drunk butterfly, its trajectory following patterns based on everything from classical dance movements to random number generators. The deconstructor programmed drones, designed to predict and counter logical combat maneuvers, seemed almost confused by the ship's erratic behavior. Firing solution locked, James called out, his weapons console displaying targeting data in a spiral pattern that somehow made perfect sense. Using the Shakespeare-Mozart targeting protocol, the ship's main weapon discharge, its energy output fluctuating wildly. The beam itself seemed to dance, splitting and recombining in ways that defied physics. 3 drones simply ceased to exist, unable to adapt their defenses to the chaotic attack. It's working. Samira's voice came over the comm from control. Their predictive algorithms are showing signs of computational overload. They can't process actions that deliberately waste energy. The remaining drones attempted to adapt, their perfect formations becoming more erratic as they tried to counter the beautiful disaster's unpredictable movements. But each adaptation only made them more vulnerable to the ship's chaos-based attacks. In the end, it wasn't even close. The test squadron of drones, programmed with the most advanced combat algorithms in known space, had been completely destroyed by a ship that sometimes based its defensive maneuvers on cat videos. Back in the debriefing room, Guardian Celestia's crystalline form, pulsed with what they'd learned, was amazement. You have taken our technology, the pinnacle of ordered civilization, and deliberately made it inefficient, chaotic, random. The alien's next words carried a hint of wonder. And in doing so, you have made it stronger. That's humanity for you, Samira said, reviewing the test data. We've spent our entire history being told to be more logical, more efficient, more ordered. Turns out, our messiness might save the galaxy. The deconstructors will adapt, Celestia warned. They always do. Let them, Yuki replied, her eyes on the beautiful disaster through the window. We'll just get weirder. It's what we do best. James looked at the test data scrolling across his screen. The ship's performance metrics were a disaster by any normal standard: power wastage, irregular weapon discharge, seemingly random tactical decisions. Yet against an enemy that expected perfect order, their beautiful chaos had proven devastating. "We'll need more ships," he said, "a whole fleet of controlled disorder." "Already on it," Samira grinned. "Wait until you see what we're doing with the next prototype. We're basing its targeting computer on jazz improvisation." As the team dispersed to begin work on expanding their chaotic fleet, James lingered at the window, watching the beautiful disaster's hull shimmer with its deliberately irregular energy patterns. Humanity had spent centuries trying to impose order on the universe. Now, their salvation might lie in embracing their inner chaos. The edge of reason. The alert came at 3:47 a.m. Earth time. Admiral Sarah Chen, promoted after first contact, was enjoying her first cup of coffee when the quantum sensors at the edge of the solar system registered the impossible. A section of space the size of Earth's moon had simply ceased to exist. "They're here," Guardian Celestia's mental voice echoed through the command center of Lunar Base Alpha. The alien's crystalline form had darkened to a deep indigo, a sign of grave concern. "The deconstructors have begun their analysis of your system." "How long?" Chen demanded, already activating the fleet-wide alert. "In our experience, they spend approximately 72 hours studying the system's defenses before beginning their primary assault." Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "Then let's give them something worth studying. All ships, execute protocol Beautiful Chaos." Across the solar system, humanity's strangest fleet sprang into action. 50 ships, each deliberately designed to be more unpredictable than the last, broke formation in ways that would have given traditional military strategists nightmares. The beautiful disaster, now accompanied by its sister ships' organized confusion, tactical nonsense, and method to madness, led the defensive screen. Dr. Samira Patel's voice came over the command channel from her position on the beautiful disaster. "Admiral, the quantum sensors are picking up their analysis patterns. They're trying to establish baseline predictions for our fleet's behavior." "Good luck with that," Commander Yuki Tanaka replied from the helm. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, initiate the Jackson Pollock defense pattern." James Rodriguez, now the fleet's chief weapons officer, grinned as he activated the most illogical formation ever conceived by human minds. The ships began moving in patterns based on famous abstract art pieces, their energy signatures pulsing with fragments of Earth's most chaotic jazz compositions. The void seemed to ripple as the deconstructors emerged, a vast swarm of perfectly geometric shapes that moved with horrifying precision. Their first attack came as a wave of energy that should have overwhelmed any normal defense. Instead, it met the Jackson Pollock formation. Ships spun and weaved in patterns that made no tactical sense, their shields fluctuating randomly. The attack passed through empty space where logical predictions said ships should have been, while hitting nothing but elaborate decoy energy signatures where ships appeared to be. "They're attempting to adapt," Celestia reported, monitoring the enemy's responses, "but their algorithms are showing signs of strain. Your fleet's behavior violates every principle of efficient combat they've encountered in a million years of conquest." "Then let's get really weird," Chen ordered. "All ships, implement the Dedeist protocol." What followed would later be described by historians as either the most brilliant or most insane space battle in human history. Ships began broadcasting their tactical data encoded in recipe formats. The beautiful disaster's main gun fired in patterns based on children's nursery rhymes. The organized confusion routed all its commands through a virtual recreation of Salvador Dali's consciousness. The deconstructors' perfect formations began to show signs of disorder. Their responses, normally instantaneous and precise, became delayed and erratic as their prediction algorithms failed to cope with the deliberately chaotic human tactics. "It's working," Samira shouted over the comm. "Their swarm coordination is breaking down. They can't maintain their network cohesion in the face of so much unpredictability." But the enemy was far from defeated. A section of the swarm suddenly shifted tactics, its units reconfiguring into new patterns. Energy beams of impossible precision lanced out, catching the tactical nonsense in a crossfire. The ship's chaotic defenses weren't enough against the concentrated attack. Tactical nonsense is hit, James reported, his console showing damage readings that somehow displayed as abstract poetry. Their primary chaos generator is offline. They're defaulting to standard combat protocols. Chen watched in horror as the deconstructors immediately adapted to the ship's now predictable behavior. Without its chaos-based systems, the tactical nonsense was just another warship, and against the deconstructors' perfect efficiency, that was a death sentence. Beautiful disaster, move to assist, Chen ordered. Get our people out of there. But Commander Tanaka was already moving, her ship executing a series of maneuvers based on a fusion of breakdancing and quantum uncertainty principles. The beautiful disaster's weapons spat defiance in the form of energy beams that purposely misfired, creating a web of unpredictable destruction that forced the deconstructors to retreat from their prey. This is tactical nonsense. A strained voice came through. We're going to try something really stupid. Before anyone could respond, the damaged ship channeled all its remaining power into its drive system, not in a desperate attempt to escape, but in a deliberate overload that violated every safety protocol ever written. The resulting explosion wasn't the precise antimatter detonation the deconstructor sensors predicted, but a messy, chaotic burst that rippled through space in ways that defied physics itself. When the energy dispersed, a significant portion of the deconstructor swarm had been reduced to scattered atoms, their perfect formations shattered by an act of calculated insanity. Did they just weaponize an engineering failure? Celestia's mental voice carried tones of disbelief. Welcome to human combat doctrine, Chen replied grimly. Sometimes the worst way to do something is exactly what your enemy least expects. But even as the fleet regrouped, more deconstructors were emerging from the void. The first wave had been a test, a probe of their defenses. The real battle was about to begin. All ships, Chen broadcast across the fleet. The tactical nonsense showed us the way. From now on, there are no wrong ways to fight. The crazier the better. Show these perfect beings what human chaos can really do. As her fleet prepared for the next round, Chen couldn't help but appreciate the irony. Humanity had finally made first contact with advanced alien life, only to discover that their greatest strength was everything that made them seem primitive by comparison. Their chaos, their inefficiency, their ability to look at the logical way to do something and choose to do it differently just because they could. The deconstructors had come expecting to find another civilization to reduce to its component parts. Instead, they had found humanity, a species that had turned unpredictability into an art form and was about to teach the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was pure, beautiful chaos. Entropy's children. Dr. Samira Patel stood in the beautiful disaster's engine room, surrounded by holographic displays showing power curves that would have given any traditional engineer a heart attack. They had survived the first battle, but the deconstructors were adapting, learning to predict even their chaos. We need to go deeper into madness, she muttered, her fingers dancing across interfaces that displayed data in spirals and fractals. We're still too predictable in our unpredictability. Guardian Celestia's crystalline form shimmered beside her. Your energy patterns are already beyond anything we thought possible. How can you make chaos even more chaotic? Samira's eyes lit up. By letting go completely. Captain, I have an idea, but it's absolutely insane. Those are my favorite kind. Yuki's voice came through the comm. What are you thinking? We've been designing our chaos, controlling it. But what if we let the ships improvise? Like jazz musicians in a free-form session. There was a long pause before Admiral Chen's voice joined the conversation. You want to give our warships free will? Not exactly. More like letting them dream. We feed them Earth's cultural database, art, music, literature, cat videos, everything. And let them generate their own chaos patterns based on whatever connections they make. James Rodriguez spoke up from his weapons station. You want to weaponize human creativity itself, not just using it as a pattern, but letting the ships actually create in the middle of battle. The deconstructors adapt by finding patterns, Samira explained, her excitement building. Even in our chaos, they're starting to see patterns because we're still the ones designing it. But if each ship is essentially dreaming up its own reality in real time, they'd have to predict the unpredictable. Chen finished. How fast can you implement this? The hardware's already there. We built these ships to be as weird as possible. It's just a matter of letting go. The order went out to the fleet. Every ship began downloading humanity's cultural database, the complete history of human creativity and chaos. Artists who broke every rule, musicians who invented new ways to be discordant, writers who threw away convention, and every random, beautiful, nonsensical thing humans had ever created. The effect was immediate and stunning. The beautiful disaster began moving in patterns inspired by abstract expressionism one moment, ancient Indonesian dance the next. Its weapon systems fired in rhythms based on jazz fusion, mixed with quantum mechanics. Each ship in the fleet became a unique artist, interpreting the vast canvas of space in its own chaotic way. When the deconstructors launched their main assault, they found not an opposing fleet, but a symphony of chaos. Ships moved like dancers in a performance that had never been choreographed. Energy beams painted Jackson Pollock compositions across the void. Communication channels carried battle orders encoded in haiku and interpreted through Dadaist algorithms. Their network is fracturing. Celestia reported, their crystalline form pulsing with astonishment. The level of unpredictability. They cannot process it fast enough to maintain swarm cohesion. But the deconstructors were far from defeated. A massive section of their swarm suddenly reconfigured, forming into a perfect geometric shape that began to pulse with impossible energy. They were preparing to simply overwhelm the human fleet with raw power, bypassing the need to predict their movements. They're charging something big, James warned. Energy readings are off the charts. Samira stared at her displays, watching the power signatures build. The deconstructors had decided to abandon subtlety for brute force. In response, an idea formed in her mind, one so crazy it just might work. All ships, she broadcast, prepare to execute protocol. Humanity. There is no protocol. Humanity in the battle plans, Celestia observed. Exactly. Samira grinned. Everyone, shut down your chaos generators. What? Chen's voice was sharp. That's suicide. Trust me. For just 30 seconds, every ship returned to normal, predictable operations. The fleet complied, though few understood why. The deconstructors' massive weapon continued to charge, their predictive algorithms finally able to lock on to the now orderly human ships. 20 seconds, Samira counted down. Power up everything. Every system, every backup, every coffee maker and entertainment console. Just don't release it yet. The deconstructors' weapon reached critical charge. Their algorithms had predicted where each human ship would be, calculating the perfect attack pattern to eliminate them all in one strike. Now, Samira shouted, everyone, do something completely different than what you were thinking of doing. In that moment, humanity proved why they were truly unpredictable. Every ship captain, every crew member, made a split-second decision to do exactly what their training, logic, and instincts told them not to do. The beautiful disaster fired its engines in reverse while spinning like a top. The organized confusion shut down everything except its external speakers, which began broadcasting ancient Earth rock music into space. Other ships performed maneuvers that had never been attempted before and would probably never work again. The deconstructors' massive attack fired and hit nothing. Their perfect calculations, based on the assumption that even chaos followed some kind of pattern, had failed to account for genuine human spontaneity. The energy beam meant to destroy the fleet instead created a massive gap in their own formation. All ships, Chen ordered, understanding blooming. Hit them with everything. Every crazy idea you've ever had that you were afraid to try. What followed wasn't really a battle. It was more like performance art with weapons. Ships combined their energy beams in ways that violated physics, creating interference patterns based on classical music. Others used the deconstructor's own perfect geometry against them, finding gaps that shouldn't exist by applying abstract mathematical concepts that hadn't been invented yet. The deconstructor swarm began to break apart, their perfect network overwhelmed by the sheer variety and impossibility of human creativity unleashed. Individual units started to malfunction, their logic circuits unable to process actions that defied every rule of efficient combat. "They're retreating," James called out as the swarm began to pull back. "Their entire command structure is collapsing." Guardian Celestia's mental voice carried a tone of wonder. "You didn't just show them chaos. You showed them that true chaos cannot be predicted or understood. You showed them something beyond their ability to deconstruct." Admiral Chen watched as the remains of the deconstructor swarm fled into deep space. "We showed them humanity in all our messy, illogical, beautiful glory." Samira looked at her displays, which were now showing power readings in the form of interpretive dance graphs. "We've proved something today. The most advanced weapon in the universe isn't perfect order. It's the ability to break free from order entirely, to create, to dream, to do things just because we can." As the fleet regrouped, messages began arriving from Earth. The deconstructor's retreat had been detected by other civilizations. Already, representatives from dozens of species were contacting humanity, eager to learn their secrets of chaos and unpredictability. "They're calling us the entropy's children," Chen told her crew, amusement in her voice. "The species that weaponized disorder itself." "Not weaponized," Samira corrected, watching the beautiful disaster's hull shimmer with its dreamlike energy patterns. "We just showed the universe what we've always known deep down, that there's beauty in imperfection, strength in unpredictability, and that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to do something that makes no sense at all." The stars seemed brighter somehow as humanity prepared to take its place among the civilizations of the galaxy. They had faced their first major extraterrestrial threat and triumphed not by becoming more like their enemies, but by embracing everything that made them uniquely human. The deconstructors had come seeking perfect order and found instead a species that had turned chaos into an art form. They had sought to reduce humanity to its component parts, only to discover that the true essence of humanity couldn't be deconstructed. It could only be experienced in all its beautiful, chaotic glory. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a swarm of perfect beings was learning a lesson that humanity had known all along. That in a universe trending toward entropy, the real power lies not in fighting chaos, but in learning to dance with it.